Now let's see if we can get this working properly this time. Did I screw it up again? Streaming health, receiving your content. You are live. Great. We'll pause the playback. Hello, everybody. It's Ken Poirier, aka the King for Mayor, on YouTube. I am going to talk today. Adjust my microphone here just a little bit. Talk today about The Man in the High Castle. Now, I've read The Man in the High Castle in this book here, which is probably backwards for you, mirror image, but it's the Phillip K Dick 4 novels of the 1960s, and it includes The Man in the High Castle, which I just finished, The Three Stigmatas of Palmer Eldritch, which I haven't started yet, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, which I also haven't started yet, but it's going to be my next one to read, and Ubik, which I read and I absolutely loved, but I'm not going to be reviewing that today. We're talking about The Man in the High Castle, and well, this is how do I say this? I'm a huge Philip K. Dick fan, and I did not particularly like The Man in the High Castle. Let me start off by reading my Goodreads review, which starts off as the worst thing I ever read by Philip K. Dick. I thought the Amazon show was slow, but the book is 1,000 times worse. The Nazis and the Japanese have taken over the U.S., and the most exciting thing in the book is the Ed Frank jewelry business. This is topped off with the sections of the book following Mr. Tagomi being a mix of $8 words and bad grammar, not only in dialogue and internal monologue, but in the narration as well, which is, let me tell you, as soon as we start following Mr. Tagomi, okay, just like the whole narrative voice is thrown out the window for a completely different one, which it doesn't make any sense. I get that maybe he's got an English dialect that he uses, and even if he's thinking in his own head, that would be persistent, but it doesn't make any sense for the narrator all of a sudden to adapt this voice. And yeah, it's really jarring. The book suffers from too many characters with no clear protagonist. I have no idea who the protagonist of this book is. At some points it seems like it's Mr. Mr. Tagomi. Sometimes it's Juliana Frink. Sometimes it's Frank Frink. And probably the character that I identified with the most out of all these people was Mr. Childen, Robert Childen, who was the antique store owner and or consignment shop owner. It's not very clear what his business is, but he seems to sell all sorts of knickknacks. I think I probably liked him better because he had the most sensible internal monologue going. He really was the person, I think, who was analyzing the situation more than anybody else. And maybe because I'm a bit more on the analytical side, I liked him better than the other characters. But yeah, for the most part, it's just all over the place. There's too many characters for a 250-page book. Which in my review I said, while this format is perhaps great for an ongoing TV show, it doesn't work for a 250-page book. We don't get to know any of the characters really well. The Nazi occupation of the East is more of a mention than anything, with little news reports of the much more interesting post-Hitler power struggle. that's going on in the other part of the country that we're not in. Everybody in the part of the country we're in is talking about the other half of the country, much more than they're talking about their own half of the country that they're in, which is just, I don't know. The book's titular character, the man in the high castle, is barely a character at all and adds little to the story. Um, I think, yeah, seriously, the TV show on Amazon is much better. I think they did a good job there capturing what the potential of the man in the high castle is. But yeah, it's not the quality of the book doesn't live up to the reputation. There is one thing in the book that was good, and that's my last paragraph here in my review. This book, as far as I can tell, has only one redeeming quality, and that is it does give you a sense of what life is like living in an occupied country. I think often it is a situation that Americans aren't able to grasp. Occupation is often thought of something that happens elsewhere. Man in the High Castle brings that reality home. It gives a true sense of what it feels like to be a subservient class in one's own country, to have your history suppressed and replaced. In this, the book succeeds, but only this, and it does. It really does. Like when you read this, it really makes you feel what it would be like to be under occupation, to be under the rule of another country, to be a vassal state. That it actually brings together that sense really, really well. And yeah, but for the most part, there's just nothing is really going on. I mean, yes, some stuff happens, but nothing. There's no cohesive plot to it. It's just all over the place, and I know Phillip K Dick tends to be a little more lucid than other writers, which most of the time I like, but unlike stories like Ubik, where we have one main character and we're following that main, and for pretty much everything I've read from Phillip K Dick is they all have just one main character and they follow that one main character, and we see the world from that one person's perspective, and I think that's really important, especially if you're doing the novel format, because yeah, like I think if he had written one novel for each of the characters that are featured in The Man in the High Castle, it could have been a really exciting series. But as a single book, I can't honestly recommend it unless you want to get a sense of what it feels like to live in an occupied nation. If that's the case, then read it. If not, then I would say go ahead and skip it, because there's a lot of better PKD stories to read other than The Man in the High Castle. And you're for the most part you're better off just watching the TV show. So this is another Phillip K Dick book. I know it's backwards. It's the Phillip K Dick Reader, and I really recommend you pick this one up. I would recommend picking up the 4 books of the 1960s, just for Ubik alone. But Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, I hear, is really good, as well as the 3 Stigmatas of Palmer Eldritch, which I haven't read those 2 yet, but I hear they're really good. I would still say that this is a good book worth picking up. And The Man in the High Castle, just think of it as like a bonus story. I really wish they didn't put it in as the first book, because I think it could turn off a lot of people from Phillip K Dick if they read The Man in the High Castle first. It's like I said, it's the worst thing I've ever ever read by him, but he's an amazing author. So even the worst book by Phillip K Dick is still okay. But the Phillip K Dick Reader, which is the other book of his that I have in my possession right now, and this one I actually I'm like in rereads on this one because it's so great. It's a collection of short stories and novellas, and most of these have been turned into movies. Um, just this is from the Philip K. Dick Reader. These are the stories that have been turned into movies, or have had movies based on the stories. The Hanging Stranger, The Golden Man. Let's see. Most of them are towards the end. Towards the end here, we can remember it for you wholesale. The Minority Report, Paycheck, and Second Variety. So those are all short stories or novellas that got adapted into films, and so you can get a whole bunch of stories in here and see how it changed from what he wrote into the cinematic versions of these films. Um, but the Chromium Fence has never been turned into a film of any kind. I think this one's really great. I've been wanting to talk about this for a second. So 291 is the Chromium Fence. Now the Chromium Fence, a lot of times when I'm reading Philip K. Dick, it's like, my God, this guy must have had a crystal ball to be able to see the future, because so many times I'm reading this, I'm like, how did he know? How did he know life would be like this? And the Chromium Fence was one of those ones that made me like jump out of my seat, like, oh my God, this is so true today. And I don't know if the Chromium Fence is predictive. Maybe it's just the same thing has been going on for a long time, and he was writing about something happening in the 60s or 70s, and it's just still true today. But the Chromium Fence is about this guy, I think Don Walsh, and Don Walsh, there's a huge political battle going on in the country, and Don Walsh doesn't want to take either side. He doesn't want to align with any group, and everybody is people are downright violent over their political party. If someone's in the other party, then they there's it'll come to blows if the two of them should meet. The one group is called the Purists, and it's been a little bit since I read the story. One group is called the Purists, and the other one, I want to say, is the Progressives, the Naturalists. Right. Okay. So the Purists are the Progressives, and the Naturalists are the Conservatives. Okay. I know that seems strange, right? That the Purists, you would think purist, you'd think that would be the conservative, but the Naturalists are the conservatives, and the purists are the progressives. All right, and so the purists, they want to eliminate everything that is offensive, and things that are offensive are bad breath, okay, bald-headedness, body odor, right? The purists basically want anybody, and it's interesting that these are all these features that are considered offensive are all male features for the most part. Not that bad breath is a male symptom, but like body odor, right? Because the especially in the world of the story and the time in which it was written, men were the working class, right? So they go to work all day, they get on the bus to go home, and they smell bad because they've been working and sweating. And so the purists are all upset about this, and the purists are kind of like the younger generation, and the naturalists are the older generation, right? And it's things, aging things, right? Everybody, like your teeth falling out, right? If you have missing teeth, that's offensive, because anything that is a symbol of aging and growing old, right, is considered offensive. And so, yes, so the purists want everybody to go have all of these mandatory surgeries as to not be offensive to the people who don't have these problems of aging. And the naturalists want to, they believe that people should be able to be people, and they should be able to smell bad, and wear ugly clothes, and basically they're naturalists because they believe that people should be able to age naturally. And so Don Walsh he's on the fence. He doesn't want to side with any party. And this is what part's really funny too, because he's got a artificial intelligence psychologist that he goes to, which is a lot like what we have today with a little psychology help on the phone kind of thing, text message psychology we have today. And his robo psychologist is all upset with him, for lack of a better term. Not really upset, but it's a robot, so it doesn't get upset, but is trying to prompt him to take a side, right? It's like you can't be, his indecision is the root of his unhappiness, right? Because it's a psychologist, so the psychologist just wants him to be happy, right? Because that's the psychologist's job. And so you have to pick a side. He's like, I don't want to pick a side. He's like, you have to pick a side. And I won't go any further into detail than that, so you can read it for yourself. But I wanted to share that with you, because it really is funny when you look at our modern political situation and how much of it rings true. So, in summary, Man in the High Castle, if you just want to read every book ever written by Phillip K Dick, or if you want to know what it feels like to have to live in an occupied country, read The Man in the High Castle. Elsewise, I would say skip it or save it till later when you really have nothing else to read. And Phillip K Dick reader, pick it up, man. It is awesome. And a half. I haven't read one bad story in this whole book, and it's been great. It's it's 400.5 pages of sci-fi short stories and novellas, and it's great. And pick it up, and you'll read a lot of it and say, I get it now. I get where he was going with this idea in this film that I saw. It's really great. So check it out, and yes, that's it.